Hello, and welcome to the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Indie PopCon, Gen Con, and the gaming capital of the world, we are the Established Facts.
Hey everybody, this is Big Don from the Established Facts, coming to you from PopCon again. We've had a really good time. This is actually our first interview on Saturday morning, so not to necessarily timestamp everything, but I don't really care. So Josh and I are here hanging out with our friends from Geeks First, and we're gonna chat about some of the cool products that they have and then some of the changes that they've made. We kind of had at least a casual relationship with you guys since last year, and there's been a lot of really cool changes for you guys in your company, and I know at least your logo.
Oh yeah, so, we've made a significant amount of changes. We pretty much debuted here 1 year ago, so this is about our 1 year anniversary more or less, and we've transitioned a lot of things. We've moved to higher quality wood. We've added significant amounts of new products. We've got a lot more things in the pipeline. We're a company that's very active. Jacob and I try our best to try and solve problems for people in the gaming world because, I'm heavy into board gaming and Jacob's heavy into Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon.
I do a lot of the tabletop stuff as well, but really the synopsis is we're kind of branding or positioning ourselves in the market to be the container store for geeks, basically. We're kind of agnostic in the respect that we don't necessarily keep everything to a pre-configured, defined orientation. So, what's good for my organization is not necessarily good for yours, which lends itself to a very large flexible arrangement of honestly, kind of like Subway, an infinite amount of combinations of sandwich options. So in this case, it's an infinite amount of options to organize your games, accessories, and things like that. We're just trying to provide the solutions to the market that really at this point don't exist. And it's actually ironic that they don't exist because I would have figured that at this point in 2017, there would have been some sort of modular insert that existed for organization, but they're not out there.
It's a difficult market too because you have to find. Well, gamers are cheap. For anyone who doesn't realize this.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
But I state that because most gamers have already invested a lot of money into their, whether it be the role-playing game systems or board games, and they've already invested, $40 to $100 on a board game. Justification for another $40 to $60 for an organization is sometimes hard to gather. But on the same note, there are a lot of people that want the games to last longer, and organization systems like this help that.
And that's where kind of we try to, not to give you the sales pitchy kind of side of this, but in reality, what it boils down to is, this is an investment piece. What's going to happen is it's going to allow you to keep your games safer for a longer period of time, which basically means that, especially if it's a game you play constantly, day in and day out, and you're transporting it from friends' houses to game stores, back and forth, inevitably things are going to get bent, broken, destroyed, just kind of in that regard, especially if you're throwing it in a car or a trunk. Well, with these boxes, or the inserts we have, the modular system, it's sturdy enough to, again, we kind of demonstrate we actually will stand on it, but it helps keep the pieces more rigid in place, our structural supports within there, keep everything organized as well, and that's the whole reason behind it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we just saw a need for not having an organization system in a game that you're not playing anymore, sitting in a closet collecting dust. And that is kind of the big thing with us, is with our box, because it fits in the standard square Fantasy Flight size box, so Ticket to Ride, Arkham Horror, it fits in that.
Ocean Explosion. There's a plethora of games out there that this currently just drops right into.
and then you just buy the boxes and the other accessories that you need. But the cool thing is if it's a game that you're not playing super often, but still needs organization, well, you don't have to go crazy with the organization. You can use the Modulus box itself and maybe one add-in, and then that's it. But if it's a game that you play all the time and you want to speed it up, you can make this into a Corvette. You can add a bunch of the extra boxes. That will speed up your gameplay and will allow you... It is the difference between being able to play 3 games in a night and being able to play that 4th game and have an extra variety, that it just makes things so much better, so much nicer. We're just trying to give people options where there were none, because there are so many games that are orphaned out there, and it's not one of the 50 or 60 where something exists. Well, there's how many games out there?
Most manufacturers that are in this market target the top 10% on Board Game Geeks, saying, okay, these are the top 10 games or 20 games that are on the market. We're only going to make inserts for those. So again, the ones that are in the, I'd say 30 to 75 or 30 to 100, that top 100 range isn't necessarily always covered. And the benefit to what we're trying to do is, even if it may not be a perfect fit, or necessarily, for instance, smaller games, or like Catan is a good example, doesn't necessarily directly fit in our original box. Now, since then, we've developed an actual insert for that. But barring that existed, it didn't a year ago, we'd be able to say, here's a box, you can take our standalone lid, take all the components from that, put it in this box, and then now you have something that you have that will sufficiently hold the game and some of its expansions by itself. So that way, you're not landlocked into having to have the box. Our solution is also able to stand on its own.
So we've all talked quite a bit over the last year as you guys have went through the development process and kind of solidified yourselves. You were at Origins this last time.
Yes.
2 weeks ago?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
great.
Just 2-3 weeks ago.
How did that work out for you guys? How was Origins for you guys?
It was phenomenal.
It was very cool. It was very neat, and it's long. It's because it's for us, it actually starts on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And because we've got to load in, load out, and like all new companies, it's a beating, man. It's they're like, oh, you got 30 minutes to unload, and since we're new and we're traveling out of state, for us it's a cost thing, and
it was intriguing. We kind of I guess got the the beating, so to speak, as we learned the ropes real fast. And for PopCon, we upgraded. We got a new dolly. We got a bunch of totes to be able to make things go in and out. I mean, we went from a 3.5 hour unload, which we shouldn't have been able to even have to begin with, but they were gracious enough to help us, since we were just kind of a lowly 2-man crew kind of thing. To basically now we got this for this show unloaded in an hour, and it was simple. It was just boom, 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 and it was amazing how just a couple of additional supplies and stuff made the transition process great. But from an actual show perspective, from what we did at the show, we had, I would go so far as to say we had thousands of people that came by our booth and were just enamored, just floored. Like, what is this? Because we were positioned, Broken Token was there, you had Meeple Reality, you had Dogmite, you also had Wormwood, which again are established, good known companies. And we just kind of, the joke is, we Kool-Aid manned. We just kind of popped out of the wall and were like, Modulus box! And we just kind of showed up. And people were like, what is this? And it definitely made an impact. We could tell people were very excited about it. They were happy that when they came up, they're like, hey, how much is this? And we're like, well, what do you think it is? And they're like, I don't know, $100. I'm like, well, you want to buy 4 of these for that price? Sure, we can do that. It's a show special. It was intriguing to know that they expected the market value to be so much higher than what we're trying to target. And that's because we want to make these things affordable. Like you said earlier, gamers are necessarily inherently cheap. And it's not a bad thing. It just means that they're frugal with their money. Mm-hmm. But that's, again, why we pitch it as an investment piece. We pitch it as something that's going to last a while, because, we want these to be around for
many
the
years.
Foreseeable future,
Sure. You got something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's interesting because we always stand and have said for the longest time, competition is good for business. It
Absolutely.
always is. So the more options that are out there, it's better for the consumer, it's better for you guys. It pushes you guys, it pushes them to be better. And for you mentioned Broken Token, and one of the games that my wife and I played that have 4 Broken Token organizers for the Pathfinder Adventure card game.
Yes.
And we have went through the iteration process with you guys, and one of your newest products is your Super Box, designed for a box the size of the Pathfinder Adventure card game. And by the way, it's excellent for the adventure card game, I have to tell you. We loved it, loved putting everything in it. I will be getting more because we have 3 other boxes that need replacement. I apologize, Broken Token, but these are better. And they're better because you went with the one thing I think that made it, of all the things you guys would talk about, and I love to hear the other stuff, the one thing that really stood out for me is the fact that you have a bottom for everything to use to prevent the sway.
Structural rigidity is key when designing things, and JJ has, how many years is 17, 18, 20?
18 years in CAD design, and yeah, it's and Jacob and I are both makers.
You have to think think outside the box, but inside, literally in this case. But when you design something, it's not just it's going to look pretty and function, but how does it stand up to the abuses that people are going to put it through? Like, I took an example. We have something called a Blade Mini, or renamed it to the Dagger because it was more appropriate because it was a short sword. Yeah. And basically, I took one of those in the back of a pickup truck, and I did donuts and circles and just beat the crap out of it. Because you know what? I have to try to do what the worst case scenario is that somebody's going to put our stuff through to know what it's going to do. Because if somebody's like, how strong is this? I'm going to be like, well, let me tell you a story. And they're like just floored that, like, why you actually, wait, hold on, you did that? Like, why did you do that? And it's like, because I want to know what our products are going to do. Just like I left one of our boxes baking in the sun in the backyard on a tree for a month, and it's fine. I mean, these are the things I do to just kind of solidify that our designs are okay, we checked everything. The whole end product that the consumer receives, such as yourself, there's iterations prior to that. There's redesign, there's checking, there's validation with end users to make sure that the design functions the way they want it. Because, again, I may not be the expert. Like, for instance, I'm not a huge board gamer. I hate to say that, but I'm not. JJ is the expert in board gaming in our company. So I would be the worst person to ask, how do you organize this particular game? I don't play it. Now, if you just say, hey, how do I organize my 40K or my War Machine or my Magic or Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'd be able to give you a better answer on those because those are my areas of expertise. So just everything is all about including and looking at, the overall design, the redesign, and just ensuring that when we get to the final product, it's something that when we give it to you guys, you're going to be like, wow, this actually works.
And that's mostly what we're trying. I mean, just recently, we just changed the design on our Commander lockbox.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one, actually. That's a good one to talk about. Let's. So we listen to feedback.
Yeah, the Commander lockbox is basically, we designed a box for any of the card games from Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh!, whatever, because we've all, as gamers who play any kind of card game, we've done the, which deck is it? So you pull out this deck, and it's not that one.
Flipping through, grabbing a card, saying, oh, this is...
So which deck, not this one, not that one. So we made a deck a box where you put the commander in the front, and so you can actually see what it is when it sits on your shelf. So as a player, you can have 3 or 4 of them on the shelf and go, oh, that's the deck I want. Well, you turn it around to protect that card, and then we've got integrated locks on the bottom. Well, we changed the lock design because...
Version 1.0 was basically a Da Vinci-style slide lock that it worked, it functioned, but at the same time, it really wasn't that great. And we got people saying, well, look, man, this is just kind of a pain to make it work. And we... Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say that. Pain in the bleep! But, so we listened to people, and then we basically came up with a secondary design that now is a much more feasible, usable option. And we've now since reiterated to this new option, and people are much more happy with it. So...
And we listen to people like you guys, and your needs and your wants, and we're a very active company. We're in all of the surrounding Indianapolis game stores all the time. We go in, we hang out. I know my wife and I play all the time. Like, we're constantly buying new board games because we just love board games. Most of all, we're gamers. We're not just, some engineer who knows nothing about these games designing stuff, and even then we try to take everything, we've got pride in our stuff, but at the same time, to make a good quality product, you got to be able to take criticism on the chin and say, okay, how do we learn from this? How do we change it? How do we make it better? And that's why we talk to everybody we can. We find out what their needs are, what their wants are, what's missing, and try to fill in those gaps.
Speaking of gaps, this is a great time to talk about, you'd mentioned the Pathfinder replacement or Superbox, kind of coined. Well, that system is not just for Pathfinder. So that is a good lead-in into saying that our modular system that we based it on for the original box, those inserts are transportable between our blades, our blade minis, our doubles, our, the new Pathfinder, and potentially in the products in the future, we want to continue that transparency to where once you invest, it kind of continues to go forward. And the beauty behind that is, yes, let's say you love Pathfinder today, but then, I don't know, just for whatever reason, 6 months from now, you're like, I've played every possible iteration or variation of this campaign. I'm done with it. Pull that stuff out, pop the box out, get the lid, put that on, and now you can use it for DC, Versus, Ascension, Dominion potentially, but we are in the works on a particular one for that. But, either way, it's still versatile. It's, Cards Against Humanity. I've had people talk about putting that in there as well.
Don, as a board gamer yourself, with kids, Jacob had mentioned how they beat it up and they try all of these different things. What would you expect using an organizer like this? What type of things would you want to make sure would be preventable?
Well, I guess for myself, one of my biggest frustrations, and I love playing games with my kids. My wife and I, JJ, we also play tons of board games. We play tons of board games at home and with our friends. What's frustrating for me, and I just had this happen to me, I just bought Mysterium.
Yep.
Have not even cracked it open. Like, I've taken the plastic wrapping off the top, and that's it. Haven't popped any of the cardboard, anything out of it. And then I pulled it out of my game bag, and I guess a week or two ago when I set it down on something, and the bottom of the box is creased. And one thing that I've dealt with, because you do when you have kids.
Yep.
My King of Tokyo box is kind of beat up and stuff like that. And so when you guys were talking about the rigidity of the box and just kind of having that internal and external strength to be able to kind of take some punishment, I'm not the kind of guy who puts a game on a shelf and then leaves it there. I'm the kind of guy who takes my games and throws them in a game bag, and I throw them in my car, and I take them wherever I go, because there's always an opportunity for me to sit down with people, whether I know them or not, to play a game. So I really love the idea of having the security that knowing when I pull the lid off of that box, it's going to be in really good shape. And all of my pieces are going to be there, and it's not going to be in complete disarray and things like that. And I'm also kind of a veteran card player, CCG player. My son wants to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, so we're kind of learning that together. And I played Pokemon and Magic and stuff, and so I really love the idea of that commander box that you're talking about, being able to identify. Because what I have to end up doing is buying like the Ultra Pro Ion boxes, because then I can go, okay, well, I know what deck is in that box, and I know what deck is in that box. But being able to identify exactly what I'm looking at, even if it's not a commander deck, even if it's just a standard 60-card deck, if I put like one of the significant cards from it in the front of it, I'm going to go, oh, that's my elf deck, because, Rises on there or something like that.
The whole concept is it can apply to any game.
Right.
And you just put an identifying marker in the front that is what you know it to be.
Yeah, and another quality that I really look forward to in accessory game boxes and things like that. One of my best friends, I've talked about him several times on our show. He and I have been developing our own games, and so it's interesting because we have to come up with a box design for how we want our game to be stored. And so the idea that we're trying to design a box layout so that people can use it in a utilitarian sense, but having the additional idea of saying, oh, well, maybe we can also work with you guys and lay out like a box design so that we can have a custom insert for, hey, go and check out Geeks First, and you can pick up the specific box design, or this is how we laid the thing out so that you could put these pieces and parts in, and this is how it will work for you.
We have, as a company, also branched out to a lot of Kickstarters because we do have the manufacturing ability because we do have a very large double head laser so that we can actually manufacture stuff. Because right now there's nothing out on the market that exists for small quantities.
Right.
Everybody's like, okay, we'll be happy to accept your $30,000 check for you to produce 2,000 or 3,000 of these games, and you're like, I need to kind of test bed like 25 or 50 first to see how this goes.
Can I just start with 10?
Yeah,
Is it 10? Will that work?
Well, and that's one of the things that we are definitely looking at trying to continue to shake the market up with is, I mean, as I stare out this and look at the vendor hall out there are plenty of upstart companies that are wanting to do something, but their idea, they can't find a person to be able to help bring that to reality, whether it's some 3D printed component, whether it's a CNC part, whether it's a laser cut box, whether it's just, there's so many different options and avenues that exist, and we're trying to get ourselves in the position to be able to start doing those other components as well in the future. But for right now, we are primarily concentrating on laser and breaking the CNC barrier right now. We're getting into that to do some pretty neat stuff within the next year. But, these are the reasons that, like you said, there's just no small batch production companies out there, because most of the time these other companies are making so much money off of their already existing contracts that, small batch does get a little complicated. But it's just like the whole mentality of mom and pop stores. If you can keep the mom and pop feel of a company even when you get bigger, most of the time your employees are much happier. One of my companies I used to work for, it had a very mom and pop feel up until it got bought out. But it got bought out by a multi-million-dollar corporation, and it's just one of those things where they didn't have that mom and pop feel anymore.
So one final thing, we've mentioned a lot of board games, there's a lot of card games, stuff along those lines. To kind of tie into where can they find you, if they were to buy your stuff, where can they find out what to buy for a particular game as well?
And right now, my wife and I have been going through our extensive collection. I think we were up to about 180-something games now. And we're trying to get a hold of friends, too. And we sit down and we have been making a picture database of all of the games and how we played it and just basically boxed it to give people a starting point to say, oh, okay, that's how you can do that. But you can always change it.
We want to have a kind of a three-tier approach to all of our inserts because, as you said, not everybody needs the Ferrari, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So we have a Ferrari model, which is a completely fully loaded version of it. And, there are those people that want that because that is needed in some cases, especially maybe a heavy traveler that wants to make sure everything is 100% protected. Mm-hmm. Then you have, the Corvette, model, or maybe, I don't know, it's mid-range, so to speak. But then you also have the Cavalier or, the Cobalt, which is just kind of the standard, our base box that would be able to perform most functions, but, it's not going to have leather premium seats and all that. So that's how we're trying to
basically leave some stuff in baggies that you're going to end up pulling out, but you can still have all your cards sorted, you can still have your tokens sorted, you can still have a lot of that stuff done with just the base box only. The biggest thing we're trying to provide people, and it's just options. We're just trying to, even if you don't use our base box at all and use some of our other boxes and put them in the standard cardboard box, you can do that with our stuff.
And that's a solution that most people don't even think about. We would like you to invest into the whole solution, but yes, our inserts by themselves can, again, stand by themselves. So if you don't need it and you're like, man, I really hate that these tokens are in baggies, we'll just get one or two little quad compartments or dual divide, something like that, and then you just stick it in your box. You don't have to do anything. It just fits in. And now it can just sit in there with your other stuff on its own and be a part of your box. And then, let's say you do that for 5 or 6 games. Well, at the end, you want to do something. You can gather all that stuff up. Now you can have your own standalone or something. So it's the whole point of being modular.
So where can they find you?
Basically, we're available online. We're at geeksfirst.com.
1ST.
Yeah, 1ST. Geeks1ST.com. We're also on Facebook. We're also sold in several stores around the Indianapolis area, and we're also branching out. We've gotten Origins alone. We've had 4, 5, 6 stores from different states.
And we even have a couple distributors that we're talking to that are potentially looking at lining us up. And that was one of the big things that we benefited from Origins, the networking that existed. And that was part of the huge win in our our book. Some of the game manufacturers we talked to as well. Got some cool stuff coming.
Good. Very cool. And now, where can they find you here at PopCon this weekend?
We're in booth 521. We're pretty much dead center. We're right by the
Family Time Games booth.
Yeah, Family Time Games, and we're right by the arcade.
The gaming arcade.
Gaming arcade and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. All right.
Look for the big lighted booth. You can't miss it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Made of wood.
You guys' booth looks pretty sweet this year.
Yeah, I heard that you guys are powering it with a big battery, right?
Yeah. We
gave up on shelling out the money for the electrical costs because we realized that we could save ourselves a significant amount.
$100.
A few $100 per show to just power the booth with a battery and the booth itself, the big lighted towers that we have, it's all designed using the same materials we use for. There's nothing special about it. It literally is the same wood that we use for all of our products, and it's an 8-foot tall tower that's lighted and painted and it's all the same material. Most people don't even, and it's made exactly the same way with the same teeth design, the same.
Cool. And we were joking about you guys after the conventions are over. You should turn them into dice, like huge dice towers.
We jokingly were thinking of doing something, but there's it would be interesting.
What would end up happening is they'd drop the dice in it, it would bounce on, and then just like shoot out the other side because terminal velocity, and there it goes.
Yeah. Well, and one last
shoot your eye out.
Speaking of terminal velocity, to just wrap up with the dice tower change we made and explain how we modified the louvers.
Yeah. Well, in our dice tower, the original medium-sized design, it had just 2 or 3 drops, and it was coming out pretty fast. It was shooting across people's tables, and they're like, "Oh, this is really cool," but it comes out really fast, and we really need a tray. So we listened to our people, and within a few days of design changes, we integrated a tray right into the back side, so it's invisible. You don't even know that the tray is in the tower until you pull the entire back wall out. And because we put that tray there, you can now store dice throughout the entire height of the entire tower.
That's cool.
But the more important thing specifically on that was we changed the cant or the angle of each of the louvers to a point at which the dice didn't necessarily have a 45, 40, an adding amount of speed to where it didn't shoot across the table.
We slowed it down. We lessened that angle just to slow it down, and then with the catch tray there too, it just made life a lot easier. Everybody seems to like it, and it's one of those coolness factors where, we're using doggy doors on the side of our thing so that instead of having to turn something over to get it out, you can pull up a little door and then you just dump it out the sidewall. We're trying to do new, creative, cool things that haven't been done to just make gamers' lives easier, just like you guys, and trying to make products that people want to have and, that are just cool. And we listen. So if you've got ideas for stuff and that kind of stuff, we're a company that listens.
So what is what's your kind of upcoming end of summer season look like?
We're next on the list is Dominion. We've had unbelievable amount of requests. We literally have 15 requests per day at every show that we have been to this year for a solution for Dominion.
Cool.
So we are making the one thing we are not doing, which has already been done, is the big, giant, massive case that you have to pull around with 2 hands in order to hold all of Dominion, and if it spills, your life is over.
Right.
We are not going to have that.
We're basically coming up with a very intuitive, without giving away too much crazy, interesting stuff. We're given a very intuitive look at how you can get stuff in a small space and still remain modular. So
yeah, we're looking at stuff that's stackable and lockable but still sortable. So it'll apply to not only Dominion, but it'll apply to Ascension. It'll apply to Magic, and it's going to have a very, very cool solution. And then we've got more products coming up for D&D. We've got more stuff. We've got an official company that wants us to design a all-in-one solution for them. So we'll be working on that. So lots of cool things on the
awesome.
pipeline, and just between the last show and here, we've come out with 2 new products. So and we, like I said, we work fast. We try to, at least.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good. Again, check them out at Geeks 1ST, geeksfirst.com. And we'll put links to them on I think we may even have you on the Friends of the Show already, and if not, I'll make sure to take care of that. check them out. The plan is to get this out before the end of the day, so definitely check them out at 521 here at Indie PopCon, and we will check you later, right?
Check you later.
Please visit us at www.theestablishedfacts.com and our Facebook page, facebook.com/theestablishedfacts. If you would like to support us by buying some merchandise, visit cafepress.com/castingrobot.
Bonus